Hello and welcome to the Mortgage Conversation with Saffron for Intermediaries. I'm your host, Tony Hall. Another wonderful guest panel today, and I will ask them to introduce themselves in a moment. But before we start, just want to say that we're recording this on Thursday, the 15th of January. So anything that we discuss will be up to that date. Another thing, just to be clear, the views and comments that we express today are of our own and not necessarily of our employers. So let's meet our guests. Firstly, our standard hello to Lee.
Hello.
How you doing, Lee?
I'm very good, you?
That's very nice to know. We do this every time.
We do, every time. Have a chat between ourselves.
He's always happy. That's good. Excellent. So, delighted to extend a big The Mortgage Conversation welcome to not one, but two new friends of the show. So, firstly, let's start with you, Glenn. If you can just look at the camera and tell us who you are and what you're doing, where you work, that would be amazing.
Yeah, of course. My name's, first of all, thank you for having me. Much appreciated,
Absolute
guys.
pleasure.
My name's Glenn Franklin Jones. I work at Brickflow. So we are a tech platform in the specialist space, which where Saffron are definitely stepping into more and more, it seems. So I head up the lender side of the business and look after all of our lenders on the panel and make sure you are happy and we're doing all we need to do for you guys, really.
Wonderful, thank you. And by last but no means least, please welcome to Steve. Steve, if you could do the honours, please.
Yeah, I'm Steve Isles, working for Saffron Building Society. I work purely on the development finance side. Two roles that I have really. One is that when new inquiries come in, I assess and undertake some due diligence. And then once we've paid out and the deal's on the go and the development project's on the go, I'm the guy that monitors it and hopefully gets the money back to pay our loan off.
Fantastic. Excellent. Good explanation, both of you. Really appreciated. So let's get on with it. The focus for this podcast is called Build, Baby, Build, which was a phrase coined by our very own Lee Williams.
I stole it, to be fair.
I know you did, but hey, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And we're going to centre on property development finance. That's what hence why we've got two property development experts with us. So the first subject is, and it's good that you're a fintech company as well. That really helps with this question. It's funny that. We all know how technology is starting to impact the regulated markets. And so I'm interested to understand, and I'm sure our listeners are, is how is tech embracing the property development market? And Glenn, let's come to you first. Talk about what you're doing.
Yeah, I think historically there has been a lot of tech in the regulated market, like you rightly said there. So regulated mortgages, there's been a lot of tech behind it in regards to sourcing systems, CRMs, comparison websites and all that kind of thing in the regulated market. But the specialist market, due to its niche and its level of bespokeness, hasn't really ever had that. So I think what Brickflow is doing is, we're not alone, but we are one of the parties involved, where we're trying to make the market more of a transparent place for the borrower, because we know the borrower wants more. They want more technology. They want to be involved more in the journey. So what we're finding is, with our tech at the front end, it's helping them really understand what the market is in a live time. As a typical property developer might assume their build cost, their cost of finance at X rate, they are massively variable. And in the world that we are now, that changes so frequently. So that's where tech can step in, and it can really start to help the developer and subsequently help the rest of the people involved, help the brokers, help the lenders, because once everyone's singing off of that same hymn sheet, it can help more deals get done, which is Brickflow's tagline, funny enough, get where deals get done, but it also enables more deals to be done that maybe a developer didn't think that could be done, for example. So I think that's where tech is stepping in that part, but it's not just that one part. You've got AI coming in now, which is definitely creeping into what we do in our day-to-day lives, as well as our business and our work lives. So we're very key to look at where AI can enhance us as Brickflow, but also ultimately going back to the benefit of the borrower, because all of us, whether we're a broker, we're a lender, we're on our side on Brickflow, we're ultimately working for that borrower. So that's where I would say that it's moving that part of the needle forward.
So I'm a big fan of AI, big fan. So because I saw one something. It was on LinkedIn about a year or so ago, which listed all the roles at risk of disappearing due to AI, and the moral of the story was, don't fear it, become an expert in it, so you become indispensable. So that's my plan, which has got a long way to go in terms of tech. I can barely turn anything on, let alone that.
Definitely an embracing.
That's the thing. So what are you doing with AI then? Is there anything particular that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so the first bit that we've done with AI is what we call AI summaries. So as we know in the intermediary market, brokers, they're salespeople by nature. They are not admin. Their strength doesn't rely in their paperwork skills. I can say I'm an ex-broker, that's fine. But what we're doing with the AI summary is they key in their information, but the AI is evolving what information they key in on any set appraisal. So that way it's enhancing what they're saying, because we know you as lenders need more.
Yeah.
You need more to assess an inquiry. Brokers don't want to necessarily willingly on that first, give that more information. As what the AI summaries is doing is it's enhancing that, so you get more, they have to key less, so everyone technically gets what they want at that part of it. So it's that enhancement piece of that. And then we're looking at more AI around how do we bring in your application forms, how do we populate things and move things around so they key in information in Brickflow, it pulls into your application form. Again, they haven't got double key data. They are very clear in what information they've got to key, and you as a lender are receiving the information in the format you want to receive it. So that's kind of the start of our AI journey.
Yeah.
But we are looking, there's a lot more in the background. So we've just, there's lots of other things that are moving parts that will be coming into play.
Fantastic. Exciting news. So let's move over to another tech-savvy professional, Steve.
Do I detect a tone of sarcasm there?
Based on fact.
Based on this answer, our listeners will soon know.
Yeah.
Steve, so from your perspective, what could tech help you with?
Well, you can see I'm very proficient in tech because I've brought it with me.
Hey, it's a fail-safe in case it doesn't work.
There we go.
But the way I say, I wanted, because Glenn's here, let's start off with Brickflow, because what I've seen from Brickflow so far is really impressive. And what I like about it from the role that I do is that it's a very simple menu that the broker has to go through to submit information. But the great thing about that menu is it certainly gives me most of the information that I need. So that technology, the way I see it, is really saving time. It's getting quicker responses. It's enabling the broker to have a very quick, yes, we can help, no, we can't. So that to me is a positive. But if the deal doesn't come to us via Brickflow, well, what we've managed to do, which is really big for the society, is that you can now upload deals direct to our portal. So there again, it's what it's doing is it's taking a lot of the effort out of it, and the fact that when you submit something onto the portal or you submit it to Brickflow, it's giving you that almost that menu, that memory jog. You're not having to think of what information do I give them. It's there asking it, and generally technology. Where it helps me an awful lot is we have far quicker access to sources of information as well. When we've got to come and assess a deal, there's so much information out there in the public domain now that you can get that helps piece that deal together, whether it be going to land registry, to Experian, to all these different various sites that we can go to now, which it all comes down to being able to give the broker stroke applicant a quick response.
So what would help you, to all of you this will be, but Steve, in your role, obviously that post-initial drawdown and that working in partnership, come on to the next question in a minute, around the build, what technology would help you in that world?
Well, dare I say it, I think AI is going to help there because if it's summarising the situation quickly and concisely. Where I'm a little bit hesitant is you've still got to check the bare bones of it. You can't
Absolutely,
take
yeah.
AI as gospel.
Hell no.
But what it does is it almost gives you like an executive summary. So that to me saves at least a couple of hours of paperwork in it. I know what deal I'm talking about. Other things that would help is if the different sources of information that we need and we go to, if somehow or other you could bring that all together into one spot. Now, I know there are people that do that, but at the moment it's extremely expensive. And it sits to one side. It's something that goes and collates all that information for you.
Yeah.
So whether it's something for us, given the volumes we do at the moment, probably not cost effective. But yes, certainly would be a big help.
Absolutely good. Lee, what about you? Any thoughts before we close this bit out?
Oh, I always say the same thing in terms of AI. It's all about tech for purpose. I think we talk about it, but actually what's the benefit it's giving? And as long as there's a benefit, which tends to be time saving, especially with the need for it all to be checked and monitored. But, I think the key advantages that we've just talked about is all that it's for a purpose. It's not because we're saying we're trying to use AI and it's doing something that isn't needed. Actually, it's all to the benefit of someone. Ultimately, it's the developer because they're getting hopefully answers much, much quicker. But actually, there's benefits across the whole piece. So I think there's no choice but to embrace it.
Do you know what it is? And it was funny because I was at the NAXPA annual conference. We did a piece on AI, and I talked about AI in the mortgage market, and how it's enabling much faster, much safer lending. And then an architect came and showed how AI is working in the actual developer space. And he showed us literally a conversation with the client saying, what would have been quite a lengthy process involving several drawings and redrawings and questions. He asked what the client wanted, aspects, spoke it into the thing, and within half a minute, you've got a fully rendered, designed house with specification externally and internally. And then he went, actually, no, I didn't mean that. I meant this. And it changes it. That's what it'll bring.
Whereas, 50 years ago, you'd have had a draftsman with a huge board.
Absolutely.
And it'd be new play, and it would take weeks. So,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
It's now literally a matter of seconds. Now, obviously, it does all need a set of eyes, because one thing that AI suffers from, I don't know if you've heard of AI hallucinations. Have you heard of that term? So if you put in a question into AI, it's unlikely you'll ever get the same response twice at the moment. Yeah? Try it when you get a chance. And they call that, when they add AI, add stuff in, AI hallucinations. So I'll give you an example. I asked it to do a picture of chameleons recently, and it did a lovely one. And then I looked at it after I'd posted it, and one of them had 5 fingers, right? So there's not a picture of a chameleon on the planet that's got 5 fingers. That's an AI hallucination, is a very base example. It just added a finger in. Fortunately, it wasn't doing a rude gesture, otherwise that would have been awkward. But yeah, it's quite often you see, and people have got an extra leg or a third ear or something, So, but that's anyway. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's move on. So, thank you for that. So, the next thing, I think, in all markets, but particularly in property development finance, the importance of relationships is key. So, why? And I'll come to you, Steve. So. Why is building a strong relationship with brokers and developers throughout the whole journey so vital, and not simply up to that first release? And I think what would be helpful as well, if you can kind of bring that to life in terms of hints and tips where you've seen either a breakdown relationship or a strong relationship actually see a deal smooth through.
I might have to refer to my script on this, but it goes without saying, it's so important that you forge those relationships. And to me, it all comes down to credibility. Knowing what you're talking about, why are you asking? So if in your relationships you can get people to understand, and I suppose this is both brokers and developers, but the number of times that you go to a broker and you'll ask for some information, we're asking for it because we need it. It's not something that's nice to have or fluffy. We need it because otherwise we can't give you an answer. You build that relationship up with the broker, and then they suddenly realise, oh, that's why you need it. And next time round, I'll make sure I've got it for you. So, that's on the origination side, should we say? That's very important to build that relationship with the broker, and build up the trust, so that they know that if they know that if I say we can support a deal, we can support a deal. We will do it. There's not this business of a couple of weeks later, or we've changed our mind. So I'm sort of very passionate about you've got to build that relationship, and likewise with our customer or developer or borrower or whatever it is you want to call them, because unlike there's a lot of lenders out there who will rely on their QS going out to support each drawdown, and they'll rely on the QS report of how the project is going. That's not how we work. Dare I say it, but I go out and I get dirty. So you go out on site. Yeah, not too excited there.
That changed.
But we go out on site and we attend site meetings, and we get really under the skin of the deal to make sure that everything is going in accordance with the way we would expect it to. And that if it isn't, it's highlighting it to us very early on so that we can resolve issues without having to halt the development at all or slow things down. Because as soon as you stop things or slow things, it immediately is costing more money for everybody. So we don't want to do that. It's a last resort. So I think you can get in there, get the confidence of your developer and the relationship going. And the relationship there is not just the borrower, certainly not just the broker. It's building up relationships with the project manager, with the main contractor, with the QS, with the valuer, with the lawyers in the background, this kind of thing. So that there's so many moving parts. What you want to do is get under the skin of those moving parts to make sure that everything is going to go as smoothly as it can. It never will, because no one deal is ever the same, but you want it to go as smoothly as it can.
Thanks, mate. Lee, let's come to you, and I'm going to come to you, Glenn, on something. How do you think that that relationship impacts new business opportunity?
Oh, massively. Because if you've got a relationship, it does go down to that big C, the confidence factor. If we've got a relationship, I was talking to someone today that they want to get more into development finance. They've not done it before, or they've done a smaller amount, but really driven, really passionate, extremely good at what they do.
Yeah.
So very easy translation to what they're doing. But ultimately, from our point of view, being able to build that relationship, we then ultimately become a lender where they want to talk through deals and work through things together. Because sometimes we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. Nobody does. We're just talking about AI actually hopefully supporting that. But actually brokers don't have that all the time straight away, and neither do developers. So actually being able to talk about that as those pieces are being put in supports, the relationship, helps them, helps the developer, because then they know what direction they're going in. I always see it as like a bit of a roadmap. If you've got a decent relationship with someone, you can steer them in the right path. If you haven't got a decent relationship with someone, you tend to find that you go on all over the place, and you're going detour here, detour there. The relationship is so key. And I think even more so in that space, just because the amount of detours that can come up is more.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. The strength, because as you say, it's that sum of that moving parts, and if you've got something that holds all that together, then
and if you've got no confidence in who you're talking to either, then and consistency is key with that relationship as well. Ultimately, it's not being heard.
Everybody's got to put in the effort, basically. And it was interesting what Lee said earlier about there's brokers out there who want to work with this, but they've not done this kind of thing before, or they're not that confident about it. I think the message we want to say, we're the kind of lender that we're happy to hold your hand through it. We don't expect you to know it all. We can point you in the right direction. We can steer you down that right road.
And then Glenn, so how, I suppose I'm interested in understanding how does Brickflow build that relationship between broker and lender and developer lender?
Yeah, I think it's definitely changed a lot, the market recently. I would say in terms of what the brokers do now, they're a lot more open to diversification. So they do a lot more than what they used to. So the traditional residential broker now doesn't just do residential mortgages. But what you do find quite, is they, like Lee said, they need that help, that guidance to be able to do the specialist market. So where Brickflow is, you've got your traditional development finance broker who knows what they're doing. They'll have that A&L, they'll have that developer CV, they'll have that everything ready to go when you need it to go, which you as lenders have already got that strong tight bond. But what Brickflow is trying to do is help the brokers, like Lee rightly mentioned, that want to get into that space, have got the capability to get into that space, but almost don't know how. So they need the know-how. So that can be, us introducing them to 50 lenders day one there and then straight away. It could be educational content like webinars. It can be podcasts. However that may look, it's education. I think is the key bit, because with Brickflow in the system, it is an amazing tool, but nonetheless, it is a system with numbers. So what we've got to really do is see how do the relationships, like you've all previously discussed, get built alongside that. So how can we work with our lenders to actually complete that education piece, to realise the brokers, they can do it, whether that be the existence of AI and bringing other things into play to assist both sides of the fence. But I think it is key to build the relationships. And from the broker's point of view as well, the brokers need to be aware that when they're doing that first development deal for that client, that's not the end game. They need to build that relationship with that borrower, because that borrower can then come to them for site 2, site 3, site 4. And the same when then brokers then go to the lender on the first deal. What we find for a lot of the time when I'm having conversations with lenders, it's once the first deal was landed on the desk and you have sold your service and your proposition very well, that's when the broker's going to come back. It's just getting that first one over the line. And it's that piece around that we just want to keep building with our lenders, with our brokers, and we just want to help everyone on either side of the fence.
Excellent. Right, let's move on to one of our old chestnuts that we talk about quite a bit, the old lovely thing of planning reform. Deep in take a breath there. So the government objective, just to remind everybody, is to build 1.5 million homes during their first term. I think reports have already said they're massively going to under-deliver against that, which is no surprise. But lots of talk, no clear action. I suppose, Glenn, I'll come back to you. From your construct, what are you seeing? Are you seeing any change, any green shoots?
Well, to be fair, in regards to the developer side of it, I wouldn't say there's huge change. I think there's a massive element of frustration of what and I think the frustration's been there for a very long period of time. But in regards to things like green shoots, what we're finding with a lot of developers is they are trying to keep themselves going with, you have massive rise of build costs. They got through it.
Yeah.
That I think they're a very resilient bunch of people to work in the field that they work in.
Yeah.
And they just keep plugging away. So what we're finding in regards to the developers, they might have the general site, they might be doing, a site of 20, 30 houses, but to keep themselves going, they're having to do the smaller sites that they can get the planning for in a quicker time frame than have to wait for that next 30 unit site to keep the subbies on and keep their business moving, because ultimately they are businessmen as well as there's so many hats that the developer has to wear, and Planet is obviously not exactly helping them, and the constant changing in housing ministers, and what we found with the budget and things like that, the economic side of things massively affect them as well. And we found that people were almost holding their breath and waiting, but then post budget again people started to look again. But it's I would say there's a lot going on, but I would say it's more people just trying to get through than genuine positivity in that part of the system.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Steve, so I suppose same question to you. I mean, what are you seeing, but also how are you seeing how developers are trying to, onto Glenn's point, maximise the opportunity?
I am, but it's so, as Glenn said there, it's so difficult for them at the moment. I mean, as for the government's ambition of this 1.5 million, it ain't going to happen. It's simple as that. And it's because the system is working against it as much as it's working against developers. The developers are experiencing, and certainly have experienced, a perfect storm because of the planning system is broken. I think I did write it down somewhere, but there's 94% of planning applications in 2024 missed their statutory deadline. 94%, and the whole time that process is being delayed and extended, the dear old developer who's gone out and bought some land on a loan is having to pay interest on it. So their holding costs are going up. And then on top of that, you've got labour costs have gone up. You've got a lack of skilled labour at the moment. Materials have gone up. So as I say, they've experienced this perfect storm. if we're to believe what we're seeing in industry reports, I think it'll be very much the same for the first 6 months of this year. But certainly there are signs that things are improving, that will get better over the next 6 months, that latter 6 months, and hopefully by then there will be improvements to the planning system. It's just everything is under resourced. I mean, there's not enough planning officers. There's not enough building control inspectors. With the new safety guidelines that have come in, you've got houses and apartments that have been finished, but they can't sell them because they've not been signed off yet. So I have every sympathy from the developers that I stay quite close to. It's a combination of some of them. If the right opportunity arises, they will take advantage of it, and they want to move as quickly as possible. Others have been saying, this is it, because they are relying on a subcontractor rather than their own workforce. They're saying, I'm having a sabbatical for 6 to 12 months until things sort themselves out. So I'm desperately trying to give you some good news, but I'm not sure that I can find it just at the moment. But certainly, from what I'm seeing, green shoots should start to appear for the second half of the year.
Good. Fingers crossed. We'll hold you to that. Now, we'll come back to that a little bit later. It's funny, Lee, I'll come to you in a second, but the reason, we need to build these houses, funny, I've just been at a meeting today where it talked about population growth and why we need to build more houses. And so in 2006, UK population was 60.3 million. Translate to now, it's 69.3. So we have basically grown by the size of Greater London. And we're not building enough houses to meet that demand.
No.
And not doing well. So that was like, wow, that just highlights it even more, doesn't it? Just free up a system. But Lee, so what opportunities do you think exist for brokers already in this market, but also those looking for diversification and or entry into it?
I think that there is a lot of opportunity, if I'm honest with you. I as much as it is a challenge, I think that there's a lot of buildings on the high street that need to change, and ultimately there's opportunities there. I think it doesn't really help that we've got an under-resourced council that effectively, from a council getting planning permission agreed, it's challenging. But there is a lot of vacant properties that actually have probably got owners that are disillusioned by selling because it's been available for so long. Actually, there's opportunities there to potentially get the price down. It might not be the type of development that they were after, but like Glenn was saying earlier, it's finding those opportunities that suit the market today. I think for those brokers that have been in this space, actually being able to find those opportunities and work with those developers, I think is really, really key. Educating the developer and other opportunities that they might have been a developer who's previously just done ground up developments. I say just, that's a big thing, but that's their bread and butter. That's what they like to do. And actually, they don't want to go and do renovations. They prefer ground up developments. Yeah. But actually diversifying the way that they operate can actually help generate new opportunities, use their resources and keep their resources. And I think that's where brokers can support and inspire that to a degree. I think that you've also got brokers that will be naturally talking to people about home ownership, and actually there's land that's available, and actually developing a self-build, for example, rather than seeing the property that's available, right? So like I'm a classic example. I bought a 2-bedroom bungalow on a street that I could not afford anything more than a 2-bedroom bungalow. Don't mind admitting that. And quite frankly, my wife wanted to live on that street, right? That was it. Right? We had to live there. I'm under the thumb. That's the only way it's going to happen, right? So we bought the 2-bedroom bungalow and we converted that now into a nice house, right? I now have a house that at the time I would not have been able to afford to buy. So, and I do think that's where the broker in this space can really, really support that, to really educate that there's other opportunities out there. That house that they're looking for now might not be available in the normal way. Yeah. But actually there's other opportunities to do things, and it's just understanding your customer the best you possibly can, whether that be your developer or your customer, to then go, right, how can we work together? Because there tends to be a solution. It might not be the solution you want, but there tends to be a solution.
That is really, really good advice. Really good.
Why do you sound surprised?
I was just being sincere. Take it all back. He's an absolute chump. Right. Anyway, but onto that. Just before we finish that, the other side of this I'm seeing. So you've got delays with planning, but I'm seeing a lot of sites delays with exit. So there's sites around by me, houses that I've looked at, that 2 years later, the whole site, not a house, is sold, but they're not reducing price.
I know.
I don't understand. Any thoughts on that?
I don't understand it myself because of the holding costs of that. It's just discount it and take the money, basically. Now, it's very simple to say that, especially when it's not your development and it's not your property.
Absolutely.
But it's be realistic, and things do happen that hold up sales sometimes, and that's an opportunity that we can help with as well, in terms of if an exit bridge is required to come out of her. But obviously, we're going to be asking the same questions as the developer is that. Does that mean that when you've got the exit bridge that you'll be still looking to sell it and not stick by it, and because it'll just worse, compound the situation basically. And I think it's also looking at alternative, not in the exit situation, but going back on what Lee said, is that there are other opportunities out there. Ever since COVID, there's lots of office space that's becoming redundant, which can be converted under committed development. And we've seen certainly in the start of this year, there's certainly been an uptick in development for rental, and HMOs. So there are opportunities there. It's just that developers may have to understand it's not what they would normally want to do, but they need to diversify. And likewise, with brokers, it's very much a case of know your client, and
absolutely,
and know the market. There's lenders out there. There's some who prefer and specialise in buy-to-lets and HMO development, and others that don't. It's know the market, isn't it?
Absolutely. On that point, then, I was going to just talk for a bit about like top hints and tips for brokers and developers. So I'll just come to each of you for your thoughts. So Glenn, let's come to you. You should be quiet for a bit. What? Well, there's no point getting him on in and sitting there. I know he's the eye candy out of us, but
that was easy though.
But that's easy done. So, any kind of top hits? God, I nearly got it wrong then. That might be an
Don't
edit.
do that.
Any
There's
kind
an edit.
of top hints and tips from you for either brokers or developers in terms of the property development market?
I think it's very much, it's kind of touched on the topics we spoke about. Right? It's education, for one. A lot of developers don't actually know what their options are.
Yeah.
It's not just, they've had their set strategy, like Lee said, they've done ground up, they've always sold, they've never retained. How do I retain? Who do I speak to? What's my lending options? What does that look like for me? How can I release money for my next site? So they don't always know what their options are. So I think that's key for them to understand. And then in regards to the broker side of things, they need to really understand their client, not just what their client's needs are now, but what their future plans are. Understand what is that client's aim. Do they want to do another 2 or 3 sites and then they're done? What's the, where do they want to retain? Do they want to build a buy-to-let portfolio, have that passive income? They want to understand, like you mentioned, moving into a house. What is their aspirations as an individual? I think the more the broker understands the borrower, the more the borrower's going to understand their options, and then they are going to work better in synergy with each other, and that is going to grow better for both parties, because that broker's knowledge is going to increase. They are then going to be able to relay that to other borrowers that can need their help. That borrower then is going to feel a lot more safe. They're in safer hands. They know they're a lot more comfortable. So I think that's what I think they need. The brokers need to be very relationship driven, like lenders need. It is a relationship piece. They need to work on that relationship. When I was a broker, you see a lot of your clients, they're almost like your friends. You understand what they, their motivations, their drivers, and equally what they don't want to do. And I think you need to understand where they don't want to go. You know, there's no point in saying, "Oh, do you want to do that office conversion to 30 flats?"
Yeah.
No, that's definitely
Yeah.
not something that I want to do.
Yeah.
It's understanding both sides, I think, and I think that's key from what the broker needs to do. And like I say, from the borrower side, we know they want to do more, so that they definitely want to learn more. They want to understand more around their industry and not just build houses. So that's my personal opinion on what I think
No, that's
the
good.
brokers and lenders should be doing.
Super. Lee, let's come to you then.
Yep.
Sorry, I did wake you up.
Yeah. No, I don't want to just constantly repeat, but I think it's not just this lending space. I think it's any lending space. It's all about getting to know your customer and holistically. You know, a blank piece of paper. Whatever avenue that goes down is based on what the customer's looking for, and then you're then steering them to understand whether that is possible, whether it's not. And like you say, it's just as important to know what they don't want. I mean, I call it risk appetite. What does a developer or customer's risk appetite? You know, do they want to buy land without planning and effectively increase their risk appetite? You know, if they've done it before, then that doesn't increase their risk appetite. It's something that they've already been involved with and they're comfortable in. So it's as much as it's about getting to know what they're after, it is very much also about understanding what avenues would they not want to go down, why. You know, my dad's a builder. He's converted barns. He loves converting barns. If I gave him something that was a 2 up, 2 down to renovate, I can almost guarantee that he'll moan at me all the time about the fact that that's all he's doing. It's got no character. It's got no... But that is the potentially the opportunity that's in that location at that time. Do they want it? Do they not? And I think it's making sure that they've got that. I know it's repeating what you said, but I think it's so key. And it is really important that they've got that. And any lending space, any broker that's getting into this space, whatever lending space it is, it's as easy as talking and listening. Listening just as important.
Okay. Steve, I'll slightly change this question then, because we don't want a third repeat.
He might improve it.
Not that you would give me that anyway, Steve, being the man that you are. What I would prefer from you, if you don't mind, is what are the biggest mistakes that you see made? Oh, and how could they be avoided?
I think from the broker side, from the side of introducing business to us, just not enough information. The number of times that the broker will actually, they'll just forward their client's email to us and say, "My client wants development finance." And you think, "I've got no idea what they want. Tell me," you know. And we try and help because we've got a list, a menu, for want of a better word, that we send out to brokers saying to give you an indication as whether we can help or can't help and what we're going to price that at. We need answers to these questions. And the number of times it comes back with "don't know," "to follow," "to be confirmed." And you think, you're asking me to tell you whether we can help your client, but I really haven't got enough information here to give you that answer. I'd rather have too much than not enough. And it's the same. It's things with like with developers as well. I understand the kind of people that developers are, but don't be shy about telling us about yourself. Don't say, "Oh, I've done a 2-bed house in Smithtown." What we'd like to know is, what's your experience? What's your skills? What have you done before? Tell us a bit about that. Don't be shy. Just tell us about yourself, because the more and more you're making us feel comfortable and the more and more experience you can demonstrate, the more and more likely we are to lend you some money. So, simple as that. With ongoing deals, I suppose the biggest thing, the biggest problem that we see is people that decide to change specification of the build halfway through and don't get our prior consent or don't tell us about it. So,
okay.
But we don't really experience an awful lot of that because of the close relationship that we have
got.
of going out visiting and that. But
Good. I mean, your answer was, in a way, was supporting what Glenn and Lee said. It's for the brokers. It's ask the right questions and you'll get the right answers.
Yeah,
Good.
definitely.
All right. And so we've got that. And is that guy, that list, that's something that do we put out to brokers before?
Yeah, well, anyone that we're working with, we will do. I mean, to be transparent, I mean, all the information that's on that we get through Brickflow.
Yeah.
You know, so actually from that point of view, it's a guide. We're shared out with anyone, quite frankly. But what's great about Brickflow is the fact that you can put that in and Brickflow does something with it, right? And it already gives us a head start. So from a lender point of view, brilliant. But equally from a customer and broker point of view, even even more so, it's because ultimately it's painting a story. I always think that these situations are a story, and what Brickflow does is give that narrative and supports that narrative. Cool. So we share that.
Yeah, and likewise, if you don't come via Brickflow, I'm sure the majority of our business will though. But if you don't come via Brickflow and you speak to the sales team, the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, I've got this." Questionnaire,
absolutely,
and they'll send it out. Can you get the answers to that, please? So
it's almost like we want to be useful. That is the plan.
Well, it does help,
it's frightening.
doesn't
it?
Yeah.
So
we have rattled through 44 minutes, so I'm going to finish off with one last question for you all, and I'll come to Steve first because he kind of half answered this already.
Which one was that?
So, is 2026 going to be a good year?
I think the latter part of it will be. Yeah, I think we'll see more of the same initially. I do sense with some of the developers, though, that they are getting a little bit fed up of waiting, and they might just say, look, I'm going to take the plunge and get on with something. So I certainly think, 26 is going to be better than 25, but don't expect to see too much until the second half. Certainly confidence. I think confidence is returning to the market, yeah.
That's really good to hear. Glenn, what about you?
No, I completely agree. So what we're seeing at the moment, especially in the lending space, is we're seeing historically of probably the last few years, a lot of the high street banks have probably kind of taken a bit of a backseat. They haven't really, the specialist sector has really been predominantly dominated by the challengers. But what we're seeing, especially of the latter end of 25, was they're looking at getting back in again. They've definitely got the ambition to help again and be on the front foot. And there's a lot of, and that's not just the high street. We feel like there is a lot of good, plans and processes when we have these discussions with lenders for 26. And the brokers, when we have conversations with brokers, saying there is a lot of positivity out there. Not maybe like as Steve says right now, but they can definitely see changes. They can definitely see the positivity in this year.
So we've got two cautious optimisms there, Lee. What's yours?
Well, I'm the same, but I think from a high street lending point of view, the market's forcing it to a degree because rates have gone down. So, in terms of that competitive market, they're then looking at what other markets have I got that I can improve my profit margins effectively, and obviously that then supports that. But yeah, I'm really positive about this year. Not because we just launched loads of stuff, but actually because. If you talk to the brokers in the market at the moment, they're seeing a lot of positivity around the purchase market. Now, if we've got movement in the purchase market, it means that developments that are there can get sold. We can then start to see the cash flow rather than be still. And I think that when we were talking about developments earlier that are sat there, some of them haven't needed to. They've got the cash flow. They thought, right, I've got enough to move on to this next build. I might just build a few less. And I hold that until there's more competitiveness within the purchase market. That definitely seems to be moving back. I think it didn't help at the end of the year, the budget being so late. The fact that there was noise around larger properties coming with additional taxes, which didn't land as badly as we were fearing at one point. So I think that means that we've got a lot more confidence in that market going into this year, which will then hope to then see that cash flow, which at the moment I'd say a lot of it is stagnant and we just need it to flow. And then that's where we're seeing new developments coming in. Equally, I think there's landlords that need to diversify. So with that in mind, that's going to create more new opportunities for those that want to renovate, convert, because actually that's where they see their returns, not just on the landlord income in terms of the rental, but actually an uplift in their property value. So yeah, I think there's a huge amount of opportunity. I'm very excited about this year. I'm not saying it's going to happen immediately, but I do think there's a lot going on, and it's creating those ripple effects that should then see a really good end to the year and throughout the year, really, for me personally.
Good. Well, thank you, chaps. That's great to see three experts with a view that actually, things have moved in the right direction. So thank you for that. Well, the time has flown, so it's time for us to say goodbye. Thank you to all of our guests, Glenn, Steve, and my co-host Lee. Just before we finish, please do follow us on LinkedIn, and don't forget to follow us on your favourite streaming channel, because that way you'll get notified when the next issue of the Mortgage Conversation is released. You can listen to it, as a lot of podcasts do, but you can also watch it if you want. You can watch that on Spotify or YouTube. They're probably the best two to watch it on. But I'll always give my health and safety warning at this point. If you do choose to watch it, please don't do it whilst driving or operating heavy machinery. Danger. There you go. Nice and safe. Always safe. Right. That's it for another episode of The Mortgage Conversation. And it's a goodbye from me, and it's a goodbye from them. Bye. Goodbye.